Now, the increase in the production has automatically raised the increase in the industries. The industries were multiplied, tripled, and 4 times they were increased. Now, when an industry is set up, we need employees, we need first of all the raw material. The raw material should be processed in the industries because we already invented the machines. Now, after the invention of the machine is done, we can't keep it aside. So, we have to use it. So, when the raw materials are brought, and now we need the raw materials for the countries. The countries which need raw materials or which influenced or got the influence of industrial revolution are, first one is France, Britain, USA got it much later. First main one is Britain, then France people, later Dutch people, Portugal, Spain. It moves on the number. Almost many of the European countries got this industrial revolution. Now, once they got the industrial revolution influenced here, and after they experienced that they need raw materials at very less cost, so automatically they planned that we have to go for the cheapest availability of the raw materials. What do we need at the cheapest availability? The raw materials. Now, the raw materials, where do we get at the cheapest levels? If any nation is having the raw materials also, why would they sell for us at very less cost? Yes, it's a valid point. We can't expect any nation, for example, take a country like India, where we can produce large amounts of wheat or rice or cotton seeds, whatever it is required for us, or the oil seeds at huge amount or bulk in production because we have large amount of land. Even though we have this, why would we get ready to sell for a country like Britain or France or Dutch or Spain or Portugal at very less cost? What would be the purpose behind it? Definitely we would not sell it. India, in the sense here, Indian people. Why would the Indian people think to sell it there? Indian people would not like to sell it at very less cost. If there is a chance that these people are expecting us to sell it, we automatically get the rise in the price and it would lead to competition for them. So, in order to eliminate all these kind of things, the Britishers have initially got an idea that instead of asking them, if we curb the nation, if we occupy the nation and come with a logo that we are civilizing them, we are providing civilizing them or civilization making sure that it is like spreading of the Christianity, or the new concept, or many of the historians agree to the word like it is white man's burden. White man's burden. This is the title given for the colonialization. In order to occupy any country, directly if we go and occupy any nation, they would not agree us and it would result in a major revolt or in a war. So, in order to get compromise from them, initially they sent some Christian missionaries to spread the Christianity in these places where they don't know Christianity at all. Later on they moved on with an intention of doing trade and buying the products at very less cost from them to get the raw materials from them, and finally after taking over the charge of the trade, later they come down to attacking one group of countries, then attacking the nation leaders, then occupying that one. Now, for example, take India. In India we have many kings. There are nearly 563 princely states in our country. So, India first they came towards Kolkata region, then they came towards Chennai region. After they established good intimacy with the kings, later they started to dictate the kings. Whenever the king refused to act on the advice of the people of the Britishers or the British admirals, automatically the king was attacked or imprisoned, or the king was replaced with a puppet who will listen to the advices of the British admirals. And later on, after they occupy one kingdom, later they moved on to the other kingdom. Like that, they occupied the entire country, India now. Now, what is the intention is, the final purpose for their industries, they need raw materials at very less cost, which can be supplied from a country like India, where we have it in bulk. Even though if India is not having the items which we require, we will force the people to do the plantations according to our interest and make them to follow them or give strict guidelines for them, or intentionally they used to dictate what crop to be cultivated and spoil the entire local crops. Their intention was only to have their motherland prosperous and squeeze the wealth of India. So they made India as a colony. In this process of 19th century, many countries of the European countries like Britain, France, Dutch, Portugal, Spain have the idea of colonizing the nations of Asia and Africa, because in Asia and Africa we don't have the much influence of the industrial revolution, and these countries are much influenced by the traditional outlook rather than the modernization. Now coming to the countries like India, the other nation which is almost felt that it is always in the state of freedom or in the free hands, that is China. China is located in the northeastern region of India, upper elevation part. It also acts as a boundary for us by adding Tibet to its territorial regions. Now, China is a very large country in the world with the highest amount of population as per the latest census. China was considered as it is a free nation and it does not have any influence, or it is not under colonial control of any. Now, coming to the reality of China, is really China occupied by any nation? Because if you see the earlier parts of the 19th century history, China was never occupied by any nation, and the king of China resisted for the intimacy or the trade relations with the Britain or with the Japanese people. Later on, it led to two consecutive wars that are known as the Opium Wars. This Opium Wars, initially in the first Opium War, he was victorious, which was held in 1839. Later, the second Opium War, which was held in 1857, he was defeated in the hands of the British people, and he was forced to agree the consequences and the trade agreements between the China and the Britain people. In this process, China fell into the hands of the Britain, and also Japanese people have some influence. So, to analyze the realistic situation of China people, whether they were under the control of any nation, or did they fight against their resistance, or through the process of revolution like in Russia, did they pass from one form of generation to the other form, like from monarchic style to the aristocratic style, from aristocratic style to the democratic setup? What would be the process led by the China people? And now in this lesson we are going to concentrate on the liberal movements in the colonies of Asia and Africa. So China is a part of Asia, and we shall deal one of the most controversial countries, which was fueled by the Western countries, that they have to face a war. Instead of facing war because of their internal consequences, they faced a war because of the external pressures which were kept on them. That is nothing but Vietnam, and later we move on to an African nation called Nigeria, and then we will wind up with the situation here. So this is the introduction of the lesson. Many countries have tried to occupy the other countries for their personal interest, but keeping the name as the white man's burden or the true gospel preach. In this way, the process of colonization started in the nations. Now, we shall concentrate on China. Later on, in China, we will discuss in the further details.